Alright everybody, I'm here with Dave Rayner from Lakeside Tools. For any of you guys in the Western New York area in need of tools, be sure to give him a call. I'll leave his name and number down here on the screen below so you can contact him. So thanks Dave, if you have anything to say.
Yeah, thanks Aaron. I appreciate you taking the time to include me in your videos, and thank you to Wayward Power Sports, and good luck.
Cool, thank you Dave.
What is up everybody? Welcome back to another Wayward Power Sports video. Thanks for checking it out today. Today is going to be the complete beginner's guide to replacing fork seals, and we're going to be doing it on this 2013 KX250F that you've seen in my previous videos that I've been working on. So we're going to do that whole process. We're going to get some close-up shots, get the start to finish process, and I'm going to be having Braedon right here, the suspension man. He's been working with Steve Matthewson, so he knows his stuff. We're going to be having him do the work while I record for him. You guys are going to learn a lot today. So if you clicked on this video, you obviously want to learn how to know. If you clicked on this video, you obviously want to know how to do fork seals, and we're going to do that today. So let's get right to it. We have all our tools laid out, and you're going to need an assortment of different tools and a couple of specialty tools. So make sure you take note of that when you're taking apart the forks. Do it the right way, you'll have no problems.
Two specialty tools?
Yeah.
Basically, this just holds the dampening rod.
What, that little plastic one?
The little plastic one, when you're pulling down on it, holds it in. So you could easily, so you're not pinching your fingers.
Yep, and so you don't mar up the damping rod.
This is just a wrench to make it easier to take off.
Perfect.
The top. Just take it off the top. I always drain the oil first, put it back on. That's just me, so then when I'm doing the bottom, I don't got oil all over my hands.
And a tool like that park tool that I talked about is extremely helpful when you're working on forks. It's actually just a bike stand, but it can double as a fork holder. Alright, notice he screws that cap back on after he drains out the oil. Now he's going to clamp it on the inner tube. And notice on the stand here we have these rubber holders, and that's so that it doesn't damage up the fork tube, the inner tube. Got the big guy right there.
Big guy. Big one.
Alright, so you're just going to want to zip out that bottom. That actually holds the fork together. Yeah guys, I want to point out real quick right here that this 2013 it uses a SFF, so that's a separate function fork. So on the left side we're going to have a twin chamber, and on the right side is going to be the spring only. So on the left side with the twin chamber, you're not going to have a spring, okay? So that's important to note. On some of these forks, especially on the Kawasaki's, I know they do that through a lot of years. So just take note of that when you're taking apart the fork so you know what side and what to use, because the service specs are going to be different per fork. Left side's going to take a different amount of oil than the right side because the right doesn't need as much. So make sure you take note of that in all the torque specs.
So, take the right off.
Alright, so tell us what you're doing right here.
I'm just taking off. Taking off the end screw of the damping rod, okay. So we can then pull it through and fully take apart the fork.
And we're going to see that D-shaped rod inside the damping rod. I notice he just took out that D-shaped rod. That's going to be in the damping rod itself. Now he's going to clamp it back in the vise. Compress that inner tube. And he's going to remove the top cap again. All while he's holding the bottom inner tube. Now that inner cartridge is going to come out. That's what we talked about before with the twin chamber. So that's going to come out, and then the fork is going to drop. The inner tube is going to drop down. And now we're going to take off that dust seal right here. Now this can be tricky guys. If you don't have the special tool for it, you could use a screwdriver or a flat blade. Just be super careful not to mar up that edge, not to mar up the inner tube when you're taking it off. So just slowly work it around. Just see how he's working that around the edge. Just trying to get that sealing lip to come up. Might even help if you pull off that spring. Dana.
Yeah.
Looks like you got it. Yeah, there you go. It's coming up now. Perfect. Alright, and now that dust seal is off, now on the inside there's going to be a retaining ring, retaining clip. You're going to want to take that off with the screwdriver, again with the flat blade. Just be careful on that inner tube. And now we're going to pull the forks apart. And see how that just came right apart? That went easy. Those bushings came out real nice. And now we're going to show you guys how to inspect the Teflon actually on the bushings. All right, Braedon, why don't you walk us through what you look for when you take apart the inner tube? What's the first thing you look at?
This coating, we don't want to be seeing copper.
Yeah, and that's Teflon coating, guys. If any of that starts to peel off, it's going to compromise the integrity of the bushing, and you're going to want to replace it.
And I mean, really, there's only the two bushings, the washer and the seal. They're pretty straightforward.
All right. Now, when you guys want to take off this first Teflon bushing, you can get it off with a fingernail, or you can use a flat blade just to pry it apart right there at that split point, and it'll just come right around that outer edge of the inner tube. And you can see he just pried it with his nails and it popped right off. And we're going to reuse this bushing. We're going to reuse this one, and on this secondary bushing, the outside is not, you don't really want to pay too close attention to the outside. You want to pay more attention to the inside on that Teflon and make sure, again, like Braedon said, that there's no copper showing on it. I'm just going to take off that washer and then the seal. We always recommend replacing the oil seals, but if by some chance you are going to use it, you could use a little bit of electrical tape or Teflon tape right here on this outer lip so that you don't cut the seal while you're pulling it off. And now what do you look for on the inner tube when you take it apart?
Pitting.
Yep. Any nicks, dings, any scratches? How's this one look?
This looks very well taken care of fork. All the components look good. You don't see even the ends abused.
And do you look for anything on the damping rod on the inner chamber?
Not entirely. Obviously, if there's any known wear or known damage, sometimes that does happen when other people are working on the forks, feeling like they know what they're doing, and sometimes they will clamp it. They'll use a steel vise. I mean, you never use anything steel. If it's got to be aluminum or rubber mounted.
Okay.
You're working with suspension. Nothing with teeth, because that's what's going to damage your.
Perfect. Just inspect that damping rod, make sure that it's not bent, and you can actually inspect to make sure that the rod works on compression and rebound. You can actually move it up and down. All right, now walk us through what you're doing here.
We're taking apart the inner oil chamber, oil cartridge. A lot of times there's a lot of dirt buildup, grime that gets in here because this is usually overlooked by people doing oil changes.
Usually overlooked by people doing oil changes?
Most of the time people don't even get this far of how we are.
Piston, the valves?
Yeah, your piston, the valves, your O-ring, same with these bushings.
Yep, inspect those bushings. Again, like we mentioned before, inspect for any wear on the Teflon bushings.
Always go to the end. These always loosen up. Dangerous. Try and move it. Doesn't. Very tight. That's good. And this is a really nice unit.
Yeah, inspect that O-ring. Inspect the O-rings on the piston.
There's oil in here.
Yep, you're going to want to dump that out.
Dump the rest of the oil out. That did not.
Alright, again, so we have it clamped here in this aluminum block. Again, not to damage the damping rod. Show us what you're doing right here. This is the bottom damping rod bolt. And why are we taking this off now?
So we can pull the rest of
Yep, we're gonna disassemble the rest of the inner cartridge.
They get very dirty at the inside of them.
Okay.
So we want to get everything out so we can properly clean it.
Perfect.
Because if we don't properly clean it, that fork oil we're putting in is gonna look just how it came out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, start with a clean slate, guys. Now these tube brushes right here are great for cleaning out the inner tube.
These are gonna be your best friends when cleaning suspension. I do it now to every single bike. These are gonna make sure you get every single piece.
Huge help. Yeah, they're just basic pipe brushes, guys. You can get them from any hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, anything like that. And it's gonna be a huge help. It's gonna make it, it's just gonna take that suspension job to the next level like we were talking about.
Next level. Perfect example. See this? Loose.
Let's see.
Loosened right up. You feel that? You can see it spinning. That should not be spinning like that. This nut is loose. You can see I'm moving it with my finger.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we're gonna have to take a look at and make sure we retorque. What were you gonna say?
Oh, those always get overlooked.
Okay, yeah, so what you guys just saw there was a loose nut. Now you wanna make sure that you inspect everything on the suspension. You don't want anything to be loose. If it is, go to your service manual, refer to that, and make sure you have all the proper torque specs and everything is done by the book, all right?
For all you who don't know, this is a parts washer. It's a nice contained area that you can clean anything, basically, not just suspension. You can clean engine components, plastics. The parts washing fluid is very universal, and it's not gonna damage anything. It's only gonna break down the grit and everything, and you could pick one of these up for $100 at
Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight.
Yeah, perfect.
So we're just gonna start off.
Jeez, it's 7 in the morning.
It's 7 in the morning.
7 in the morning.
And we're spilling. We're gonna shoot some parts fluid down in there. Oh, it's 7 in the morning.
It's 7 a.m.
7 in the morning.
7 in the morning.
I'm just gonna get in there.
Clean it up good, guys.
Twist it a bunch.
Yeah, twist it, clean it up.
Just that little bit is way better than
It's gonna
taking,
do wonders, guys. Gonna
just
do
taking
wonders.
a wooden rod and sticking a paper towel down there like everybody does.
Exactly. Good to go.
This is good to go. All done. Sometimes at the bottom under here, you get a really high grease or grime buildup. Like I said, this fork was, you could tell, was definitely taken care of.
Yep.
Regularly serviced. Next to the oil cartridge, this is going to be the next most important thing to clean. Make sure it's 100% good. We're going to tighten her down. You can see now, she doesn't move like she
What are
did
you
before.
looking for when it's loose like that?
Damage, if the components loosen too much, or just retighten it. Most likely it's going to loosen back up. These things are known to do it after excessive wear, so you just got to be really mindful of that and don't let it get too far.
Alfred State.
We should do a video like that.
We should.
We should.
A day in the life. A shop tour.
A shop
tour, Mr. Abdo.
Shop tour. An interview with Mr. Abdo. Come on, that'd be the best.
We could.
We put in the rod into the cartridge. Now we are going to put back the nut. For now, we're just going to use this inside of this clamp.
All right, guys, so I want to point out real quick here that left front fork adjuster assembly, that lock nut, 16 foot-pounds. So always refer to your service manual. And we're going to torque this down to 16 foot-pounds.
Yep. Now that we got her torqued down, it's going to stop the rod from pulling through. It's basically so we're going to fill this up with oil now.
All right, what are you doing here now, Braden?
I'm bleeding the inside of the cartridge. Just trying to get all the air out of there and get some oil in, because this is an oil cartridge.
Yeah, you want to bleed all the air out of it, and you're going to hear it come out at the top. It'll be bubbling.
We're going to fill this up now to the hole. We're going to get it all. We're going to put the cartridge in. Oil will come up. Then what we're going to do is we're going to drain the rest of the oil out after.
Sweet.
Good on that. Pop her up. Plug your fingers one hole. Rest of that oil out. You got a good cartridge now, ready to be reassembled into the fork. I like to make sure all the rest of the parts washer fluid is out. Spray on that. It eliminates any possible problems in the future. So, not only on the fork seals, you're going to want to grease. You're going to want to grease the bushings. Also, just increase the life of the components. We are going to put the components back onto the fork tube now, the bushings, the washer, and the seals. We can use a plastic bag to help with the seals coming over the lip.
Yeah, that's just so you don't damage the seals when they're going over the inner tube.
The lip, they'll catch on the inner of the seal, and it'll ruin them right away.
Yep.
We're going to take the plastic bag, the corner of it, put it over. Take.
Now you kind of put it on an angle. You kind of twist it around it. Kind of work it around. Yep, just like that.
And look, right over.
Slides right over, no
Doesn't
damage.
Got the fork
So
seal.
we're going to put that wiper on at the bottom to start. Yeah, it's going to be the oil seal next.
Oil seal.
Now we're going to put on that washer.
Washer.
And this washer, all that does, guys, is it sits on the oil seal. It's going to sit on the oil seal, and that's going to protect the oil seal when it sits against the bushing at the top here. All right.
Bushing. And then this is the one we use to peel back our fingers.
Yep.
Can do the same thing.
Slide right
on.
over. It's going to click right in.
Everything gets held on by that bushing. Always try and mount it on the surface where the triple trees or the clamps are going to go on, because it's already going to be clamped. If anything does happen, it's going to be covered and it's not going to show any damage or scuff marks.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but that's awesome. Sits right there where the triple tree is going to be. If you do by some chance end up scratching the tube, you're not going to see it because it'll be clamped in by the triple tree anyway.
Exactly.
So.
It's just one more step.
Yeah, that's, again, you know, a great tip to use when you're doing it. If it's your first time, you don't really have the best tools, the best equipment. If you're going to be clamping it in something like this, just be careful. Use a rag to not damage any of the edges that's going to be seen when you're working on it. First, you're going to slide up that oil seal along with the wiper at the top of the inner tube. And you're going to start with the two bushings and the washer.
Exactly. Now we're going to move our seal down. You can get it in a decent way with your fingers, but then you're going to eventually have to use a seal driver.
So now Braedon's getting the seal drivers ready to go. We're gonna use the seal driver to drive the seal down into the outer tube of the fork. As you guys saw earlier in the video, we peeled out that inner retaining clip, and that's gonna go in after. But when you put that seal, when you drive the seal in first on it, you're gonna wanna make sure it goes past the opening for the retainer clip. So you're gonna wanna make sure it goes underneath. The oil seal is gonna go underneath the retaining clip position.
Just a basic seal driver here. This is a nice kit. You could have many different sizes. You want to make sure you use the right size for the fork tube that you have, because if you use either too small or too big, you could actually get it inside the seal or jam it inside the tube, and then it's going to be it's going to damage it, and it will not have the tight fit that it needs.
Definitely, the right size driver is huge. 47 here.
Yeah, so this is a 47.
Around it.
You're just gonna want hear.
Yeah, you can hear it distinctly when it bottoms out. You know it sounds different.
We're gonna put the retaining clip in.
Just gonna work it around and make sure, just verify that it goes into that groove.
You want to hear that click. Hear that click all the way around. Always, even if you hear one click, go all the way around.
Yeah, just
make sure
verify.
she's in. Slide our dust seal down.
And then once you get that first set of lips in, then you can just
There. Just
finish the
use.
job
You could
with
even
the
use.
bottom of the fork.
Yep. And then she's all in.
Just get it started, and then you can use the bottom of the inner tube to finish the job.
Drop it in.
All right, notice you just got the first couple of threads started here on this top cartridge.
This is easier. We're gonna drop our D-rods in. Okay. You gotta make sure that it's lined up. This is the same D-rod shape. And you'll feel it as it goes in.
And now you're going to want to torque that bottom bolt to 51 foot-pounds. Now a lot of times that bolt will actually end up sliding in the bottom. It'll spin. It'll be tough because it won't engage. And you can't get a proper torque or a torque at all. So you might have to use a gun, a little impact driver to help you out with that. All right guys, now we're about to fill it up with fluid.
Be careful with this. Because of the cartridge and all that, it can spill out, and then you're not going to know how much you have in there and how much you've already put in. Tighten her back up.
We're going to use that top cap nut wrench that we used in the beginning. You can see right here.
And you really, this doesn't have to be, we're not torquing this down, we're just gonna give it a nice snug. And there you go.
So like I said earlier, you're gonna have that damping side of the fork, and then you're gonna have the spring side. So the spring side is gonna be super tight, tough to push down. On the left side, which is the damping side, you're gonna be able to push it down pretty much all the way. And it should rebound on its own slowly, obviously, if you bled it right and properly. Guys, that's gonna wrap up today's video. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. Smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you never miss a video. And guys, thanks Braedon for your help. We're out. Peace.